unabashed,
the most unpredictable,
becomes a headline,
the most volatile,
outrageous behavior,
unsubstantiated narratives, a battle of personalities.
Welcome to Grant Tamasha, a co-production of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Hindustan Times. I'm your host, Milan Vaishnav. This month, voters are going to the polls in 5 Indian states to select the members of their respective state assemblies. These polls are being seen as a test of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popularity and the ability of the Modi-led BJP to grow or to further consolidate its popularity in the eastern and southern parts of the country. Election results will be announced on May 2nd, but before then, we will hear from a litany of exit and opinion polls that will try to predict the outcomes of these 5 contests. The exit polls conducted by Axis My India will be among the most eagerly anticipated. The firm has garnered a reputation for accurately predicting a spate of recent elections across India. My guest on the show today is Pradeep Gupta, the chairman and managing director of Axis My India and author of the brand new book, How India Votes and What It Means. I am pleased to welcome him to the show for the very first time. Pradeep, nice to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So, Pradeep, let me just start with a little bit of your background. You mentioned in the opening chapter of the book, you had gone and attended your very first political rally in the year 1977. I think you were just around 8 years old.
Yes.
You had gone to see the Janata Party candidate, Lakshmi Khandelwal, give a stump speech in a village in Madhya Pradesh. Is this what got you hooked onto politics? And kind of when did you realize that, elections wouldn't be just a kind of hobby or a passion, but actually a sort of business proposition?
Okay, so first let me give you my background very little bit. My father was freedom fighter, poet, writer, and he was also advisor to the local politicians. So in my residence, my home, election is all the time elections. Political leader used to come, chat, understand, make the strategy, policy for the, and in India, after every 6 months or 1 year, there is one election, right? So that's the background as far as and that's the reason why I had that luxury of, attending a political rally when I was 8 years old, just for the sake of fun and just for the sake so that I can go and have fun in a four-wheeler, in those days, and that too in a tempo, the goods carrier,
Right.
the goods carrier, and that was the only, inclination towards the election at that point of time. And of late, I attended OPM, Owners President Management Program at Harvard Business School during 2013 to 2015. And I happened to meet Robert Kaplan, Professor Robert Kaplan. That time he was our professor for the leadership subject. Now he's, of course, the Federal Bank Governor, and earlier he was Goldman Sachs Vice Chairman. So on one-on-one meeting, he suggested and recommended, Pradeep, why don't you start political advisory? You are so good to connect with the people. You have got fair amount of Indian demography per se, and most importantly, the understanding of their culture and system and processes. It was always there in back of my mind, but only thing when to start. So that is when in 2013 I attended in May 2013 this OPM program at Harvard, and during November December 2013, these 5 states election happened, including MP, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan and Delhi assembly polls, and that is when we started this polling or prediction business.
Since 2013, there have been 46 exit polls that your firm has conducted. You write in the book that the firm has called the election correctly in 44 out of 46, which is a very remarkable strike rate by any measure, especially given the fact that we know that election polling in India has, shall we say, a pretty mixed track record. So before kind of explaining to us how you managed to consistently get the story right, tell us a little bit about why conducting kind of election polls in India, why is it so hard?
Okay, so there are 2 aspects to this. One is the Indian election dynamics, what it is. So first, let us understand that So though there are 30 states, but to our knowledge and to our mind, these are 30 countries, I would say.
Right.
The kind of diversity this all independent state has, and there are about 22 languages are spoken, and more than languages there is called dialect. Even in one state, 3 to 4 different regions has got different dialects, and most importantly, 100 socio-economy regions, so this is one side of the demography, a cultural outset. The other side is that there are about 8 national parties, 50 recognized regional party, and about 2000 small time parties, 2000 to be precise. And the kind of system we have, democratic system we have, each constituency elect one public representative. When it comes to assembly, it's MLA, and when it comes to parliament, it is MP, member of parliament. So this is one side of the story. This is so diverse, and on an average, in every election, there are minimum 5 candidates, and it can go as high as more than 100 candidates at times.
Sure.
But average is about 10 to 15 candidates with different parties and sometimes independent as well. So this is the Indian political scene. This is how we elect our leader or the government, and this is how the democracy function in India. That's one side. Now coming to access, what we do. So we have three basic elements of Access My India. First of all, it is the dedicated Access My India team. There are more than 1,000 plus field force, and they are all our own persons, the team members. And we never sublet any business, and we do face-to-face interviews, conducting face-to-face interviews with representative sampling. So this is our process and methodology. Now coming to the basic elements, which is three. First is the reach. We should be able to first reach to the right sampling which is representative. The second is connect. When I say connect, it is we should be able to connect in such a way that insight of the voters started flowing, because you are every time you are first timer, you are unknown. You people see us from a suspicious, vision. Who are you? Are you a salesperson? Are you a fraud? Are you sent by any political party to get the their viewpoint? So second is the connect. So we have to connect in such a way so that they feel very comfortable. It's like a water flowing. The moment anybody is up, the water will not flow. The insight won't flow. So the connect is very important. So we have a very rigorous training system how to connect. And the third is the understanding. What is understanding? See, any decision for that matter, the key driver is the needs of individual, is the driver which decide the decision making of any person. So we need to understand what are their needs from the next government whom they are going to elect. So this is the understanding. So we try and understand on various issues. Bulk of them are their needs, and any election for that matter evolve and revolve with three basic fundamentals of any election for that matter. Who are they? One is the people who elect the government. Second is leaders whom is going to be elected. And third is performance of incumbent government whom they have elected 5 years back. So these are the three key elements. Our questionnaire is designed in such a way so that it covers all these 3 points, as well as understanding the needs of people and that day and on that location. So this is how we do, and we have, of course, the coming to our process and systems. First is the recruitment. Second is the selecting the right person. The third is rigorous training Fourth is monitoring. Fifth is the kind of technology we have. We can really track the interview real time basis. Whatever is going on there on the field, more than 100 persons, the quality orders sitting at back office, they can track through, they can hear through, they can understand through what's going on. So if any deficiency, we immediately report and get it correct through the field team. And the kind of capacity we have, we during general election 2019, we conducted literally 30,000 face to face interview every day, and we end up with the total number of sample size in general election 2019, 8,42,000. So that's the sample
Wow.
size. That's the sample size. For us, it is not simply the election or understanding and predicting. Our vision is to connect all 25 crore Indian household and try and resolve their problem. This is our vision. And our mission is to actively contribute every day to improve lives of 1.3 crore, 1.3, sorry, 1.3 billion Indian Indians. So that's our kind of a mission.
I want to ask you about some of the themes you bring out in the book. And one of the first ones you talk about is that, there is a belief, analysts talk about this all the time, that Indian voters are increasingly giving state and national governments very solid single party majority mandates rather than giving messy, fragmented outcomes in which, no single party is the clear winner. If this is indeed a new trend, what is it about the kind of voter psychology that explains why this is happening?
So basically, first and foremost is every voter wants to elect a strong government. That's for given, and that is there for the ages. But what happened is the when it comes to election, so there are state election and there is a national election. Even I just give one simple analogy: when you have to elect or select a family head or a company head at times, you need to make consensus among the people, among the stakeholders. So you talk what happened in before 90, because you must be knowing, even one cannot afford to call the neighboring city person or relative or friends. It cost a huge amount, and in fact, not more than 5% people had that time had the even the telephone, the landline. So it was very difficult to communicate and make the consensus. But because of this technology, particularly internet and WhatsApp, within no cost you can communicate not only to the next neighboring city, but anywhere in the state, anywhere in the country, and also abroad, with without any cost implication. So it's all about informed decision making. They are able to make the consensus. They know what are the issues. Now they know who is going to solve this problem and who should be elected. After all, their livelihood, 100 vote costs 80% peoples in India, their livelihood is depend on government. Very categorically I am saying this. The reason is very simple: we need to understand the Indian construct, demography. 70% people lives in rural India. When I say rural India, there are about 600,000 villages, 600,000 plus to be precise. And when I say 30% urban, it's not 5 8 metros, it's not 100 top city. There are 6,000 urban cities and towns. So 70 plus 30. So when I say 80% are rural and poor in India, out of total 25 crore, 250 million households, only 1.5 crore, meaning 115 million, 15 million people actually pay the income tax, which is in the excess of 500,000 rupees annual income. So when I say poor rural and their livelihood is largely depend on government social welfare schemes and their measures. So very carefully they elect and select the leader. So these, because of technology, this making the consensus or making the choices among the people at large become much easier, and that is the reason why you see the landslide victory in one party's favor.
So the other thing that you talk about, and this is something that people like Yogendra Yadav and others have written about, 20, 30 years ago, is that poor Indians are more likely to vote than many of their richer and more urban counterparts, poor rural Indians. And some people who have studied this have said, it's not because poor people depend on government necessarily for welfare schemes. It's because on election day, that is the one time when they can exercise their right the same way as everybody else. So if you're a tribal, you're a Dalit, you're a man, you're a woman, no money, a lot of money, it's a leveling mechanism. Everyone is treated the same on election day. But you emphasize instead not that fact, but more the kind of welfare and government dependency.
It's what you care for. It's all depend what you care for, how much pain you are ready to wear. If you see the Indian urban and that to metro system, I'll give you the example. Putting it forward with the facts. South Bombay constituency, Kolaba, I don't know, in Bombay, they vote only 40%. The voter turnout is 40%. And in any rural consistency will definitely have the voter turnouts in the excess of 70%. What does it mean? And in South Bombay, generally the filthy rich, because they doesn't care. They don't want to stand in a queue. They don't want to stand under the sheer heat, 45-degree temperature. Because I mean, why they don't care? Because they are not likely to benefit it in any way. That's what they think. Whereas actually the road, electricity and water is common for all, from rich to poor. These are the three things. What are the other basic elements? For government is responsible, the basic amenities: electricity, education, road, electricity, water, this is common; health, which is hospitals, medical facilities; education, which is government schools; and law and order; and most importantly, the formal related facilities. These are the very important issues for rural and poor, and that is the reason why they care. And they are not like a busy person in any urban this thing. Though in urban also there is a public holiday declared on election day, but they go on for
Sure.
outing.
So, I want to ask you a little bit about what makes or breaks a campaign. And I want to read out a quote from your book, which you say, quote, political ideology, communalism, the lack of a strong opposition contender, or the charisma of a single leader rarely factor for the average Indian voter. In any political party's campaign, the voter has just one expectation: what's in it for me? End quote. So when you say that delivery matters, I'm not sure anyone would disagree with that. I think we all understand, of course, delivery matters. But do we understand, Pradeep, what kind of delivery matters? Delivery of what exactly?
Yes, I'm coming to that. So, as I first is the basic amenities, which I just now narrated. Now, over and above, what kind of different delivery mechanism or elements government exercise through various different ministries and departments? To start with, financial help for housing. We call it PM Awas Yojana, under which 2.5 lakhs rupees given for the
House
housing,
construction.
house construction. Then free gas connection.
Right.
In earlier days, it used to cost minimum 4,005 rupees just for the connection. Then gas cylinder is, which is the variable cost, the refilling. But that is given. Then government has opened Jan-Dhan accounts.
Right.
Now the direct money transfer for various these kind of schemes, which is like Kisan Samman Nidhi,
Right.
they pay 6,000 rupees every year to all the farmers.
Right. This is the sort of the flagship program of the prime ministers and the BJPs to provide cash transfers to the country's farmers.
Yes, yes. So there are like many things like a scholarship for different section of societies. Students different for scheduled castes, different for scheduled tribes. You know, poor people. So there are so many kind of what you call it freebies in a way, and they actually deliver. So this all includes as a delivery, then subsidy on fertilizers, then subsidy on water charges and electricity charges for irrigation. So there are so many things, so many things. You keeps on counting. There are ministries, and that's the
But
then your medicine,
Pradeep ji,
insurance for that matter, medical insurance.
let me just ask you. Sorry to interrupt on this. Because of course these schemes have been there from the beginning, and every national regional party has rolled them out. What seems to be different and new now is that the prime minister has managed to make sure that every recipient of these schemes associates him, the individual of the prime minister, with the delivery of those schemes. And so, therefore, when it comes time to vote, particularly in national elections, the credit doesn't go to the state government. The credit doesn't go to the local politician. The credit goes directly to the prime minister himself. So, would you say that that he has solved, in a sense, one of the biggest puzzles of Indian politics, which is how do you actually claim credit for things that you do?
Okay, so there are two aspects to this. Nowadays, as I mentioned, these days the voters is informed. They know what is the election for, whether it's a local body election. So, what to expect from this leader whom they are going to elect? When it's a local body election, what kind of issues is there? Drainage system, cleanliness, traffic, gardens. These are the issues. And
Because these are the things that could be handled by the municipal corporation or the
municipal
local body.
corporation.
Right.
When it is assembly election for a state, what are the issues? Road, electricity, water, education, health, law and order. This is all state level, issues, and they expect all these three things.
This
And
is
when
the
it
kind
comes,
of Bijli Sadak Pani sort of vibe.
yeah, bijli sadak pani. That's what road, electricity, water. And when it comes to national election, what is the biggest issue? First is the inflation. Second is the unemployment, if it is any. Then there are various policies. And why Modi is, there are two things. Who is leader? First of all, we need to understand who is leader. So there are different ways of looking at leader. For my knowledge, it's the very simple and basic thing is the public representative. Who is public representative? And what is his role? To represent people's problems and issues in the right forum, and that is parliament for that matter, and get it resolved. And what Modi has done, Modi continuously connect with the people, speak with the, there is a program called Man Ki Baat. What is that? Man Ki Baat is a radio program. Every last Sunday of every month, he talk to people and talk about their problems. He's talking this last Sunday, he was talking about, how to appear in exams. You should not carry any, pressure. So see the connect. So every time he connect with the people, and that's the role of any leader. What are you representing for? It's not that you made the minister and you function. No, that's the different function altogether. First, you are my representative. If you don't understand me, if you don't care for me, you are not my leader. This is what Modi has changed.
So I want to ask you about the Congress, because you said something very interesting in your book, which is when you go back to the 2019 election, you say that the Congress actually had a pretty good start to their campaign. They rolled out this Nyai scheme, which was a nationwide, very ambitious cash transfer scheme, and that actually had the potential to connect with many voters. But eventually, the Congress campaign went in a different direction. It kind of went off the rails. So tell us about what was the opportunity that Congress had, but it missed ultimately in that election.
Okay. So just to take you 1 second, 10 second behind, in 2004, when Congress became victorious and Manmohan Singh ji was Prime Minister at that time, Congress bring one scheme called Manrega, you know,
Right.
that is the minimum guaranteed employment for the poor in rural area.
Right. So 100 days of paid
100
labor
days,
across
100
rural
days
India.
guaranteed in a
Right.
year, 100 days guarantees in a year. And that was the game changer. And in fact, that was the major cause for the repeat victory in 2009 instead of great slowdown globally. And Congress not only win that election, but win with bigger margins. So that's the thing. And in the similar line, they announce Nyay, in their manifesto, or they try to, which is Nyay. What is Nyay? Nyuntam Aay for unemployment youths, which is 72,000 in a year. Very good slogan they given. Ab ki baar 72,000. Generally you must have been familiar about these kind of ab ki baar Modi sarkar, ab
Right.
ki baar Nitish sarkar, ab ki baar Atal sarkar. So they came out with ab ki baar 72,000, meaning this
Right.
time you will get 72,000 rupees
72,000 in your
guaranteed
bank account. Right.
in bank account if you are unemployed. Yeah. So this is what the scheme, which was very promising. But within, I would say, 1 week to 10 days time, this slogan got changed. And I could see in a newspaper and everywhere in advertising and promotion, they said, Ab milega nyay.
Yeah.
These days, the big, I would not name the youth or anybody, short form. If I am Pradeep Gupta, they are very happy to call me PG. And for everything they try to code it short. So they
Yeah.
did for this also Nyay. What is the meaning of Nyay in Hindi?
Yeah.
Justice. And over and above, they were alleging the incumbent government, Modi government, for the Rafale deal.
There's a big corruption
The
scam involved in the
corruption
defense
and
deals.
so and so on forth. So how it is perceived at people at large, ab milega nyay, meaning, oh, there is some kind of injustice, now you will get justice.
Right.
And when we go and do the survey and we ask, do you aware about the nyay? Less than 10% people were aware about it.
Right.
So this is the blunder they made in their communication strategy.
So I want to ask you about another part of Modi's attraction. If you open up the newspaper and you look at the op-ed pages, the conversations about Indian politics are full of talk about Hindutva, polarization, Citizenship Amendment Act, National Register of Citizens. You argue in the book that polarization can never be the main reason for a victory. So you basically say, look, Modi ji's electoral success can be chalked up to many things, but not the popular support of his ideological agenda. Now, clearly polarization, communal issues, they don't seem to be turning off a lot of voters. So how do we understand the role of ideology, particularly the BJP's ideology, in how Indian politics functions today?
Okay, so there are different sections of society, political party needs to address them, right? And wherever the majority is there, they try and focus onto that, right? This is the, when you say ideology, but yes, we all know that BJP since very beginning, the think tank of BJP is, more inclined towards Hindu or Hindu based kind of ideology. So that is there. But when it comes to political campaign, all these this is the leadership side. My book is all about how people vote. There are two different things.
Right.
As a leader, I need to address all section of societies, So I do, and sometime I use all these polarization or communalization line or ideology and whatever you may call it. But this is only the packaging and marketing. Like, why I'm saying packaging and marketing? See, these are all emotional issues. And in any advertising and brand advertising, the top or very famous celebrity come and do the advertising on the emotional line, but product is different. This is just to communicate and reach to the wider section of the society. That's the packaging, and they try and do it. Whether it is benefiting and not benefiting, they know pretty well. And also, what is more important here, one underlining part. See, when it comes to communication, then media plays the vital role. And what media pick and select is what suits them from a business point of view, from a target audience point of view. And, if any political party or any leader has given 50-minute speech, I'm sure they must have talked 5 minutes on this what do you call polarization, or
Kind of
yeah,
polarization.
on these lines. But they've also talked 45 minutes on other delivery issues, and that is the reason why all these ministries are made, and that is their job, their function, what they will do 5 years. Otherwise they should have started one ministry for this. In fact, it is other way around. There is a ministry for minorities, separate ministry to address their grievance. So it's just I would say, is the packaging, and media picks and select, and they start talking about this. But voters, they are unaffected. And the best example I'll give you, 2020 assembly election, Delhi assembly election, where 70, seats, BJP could win only 8 seats, and all 1 month they were sign back, sign back, sign back. Media, 90% time you open the TV and you hear the sign back. And when we go and ask people, do you know sign back? Well, we don't know. We heard sign back, but what is it is nobody knows. And BJP was a big loser there. They could secure only 8 seats.
Pradeep, there seems to be two different things.
Yeah.
So what you seem to be saying is that there may be a small section of the electorate that does care about these things. I think you estimated around 10%, right?
Right.
Then the vast majority of the electorate, the voters, are caring about what's in it for them, right? We came back to that simple bread and butter, what we call kitchen table issues, right?
Right.
However, the fact that polarization is being talked about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, means that voters are at least willing to ignore it or look the other way. So in a sense, though, isn't that the voter accepting that agenda, saying, okay, he wants to get rid of all infiltrators who are coming from Bangladesh. He wants to do this or the other thing to Muslims. We are not voting for that, but we're also not voting against it. Isn't that an important distinction?
I would say it's more than this. When we talk about Hinduism or Muslims ideology, this is also matter of the fact that large numbers are Hindu. I mean, there are about 15% Muslim population in the country. So
Right.
85% is Hindu. So in a way, leaders is trying to connect with them, and particularly when you are national in that sense, they call it, even in cricket match, India-Pakistan match, is enemy is like, Greece and Germany, and, like this Mexico and United States in that sense. So they try to position themselves. Okay, we are more inclined towards this. Vis-a-vis the Congress ideology is like center, they used to say, we are there for all, And though they were saying this, but actually they say, they run the appeasement politics for the Muslims over a period of time. So it's just that the ideology or one conviction or whatever you call it, try to get that sense of belonging. Again, the emotional touch.
So I want to sort of ask you about another part, some would say a controversial policy that the Modi government has employed, and that's demonetization. Now, you can poll many economists in India, globally, and they will say on the merits, this was a policy failure. However, political scientists will tell you that this benefited Modi hugely in political terms, right? Now, the question is why? And one of the things you point out is that many employers or people who had black money and needed to get rid of it, they channeled those funds through the bank accounts of their employees, right? Their daily laborers, the people who cleaned their homes, who cooked for them, and so on and so forth. This led to a number of millions, in fact, of poor or average Indians who are seeing their bank accounts rise dramatically, even if temporarily. So, how exactly is it that demonetization went from a kind of economic loser to being a political winner?
Okay, so there are two aspects. One is the, of course, the economy part of it, and second is the election part of it, right? So I am definitely has no understanding whatsoever as far as economy goes. Let me focus on the election only, right? Then again, coming when Prime Minister Modi declared the prime ministerial candidate in September 2013, what was the challenge before him? You know, BJP was the kind of perception across the country, and which is true also. BJP is the party of urban, rich, and upper caste and traders. This is the impression, and which is, I would say, 99% true, right? And they had never secured more than 182 seats at their best, and since their inception in 1980, meaning after 34 years of struggle, they could never find the majority government on their own, right? They were struggling. And the other side, Congress has ruled for 60 years, and there were Mili-Juli Sarkar, for 5-6 years, two times. One time 77 to 80, 2.5 years, and second time 89 to 91, another 2.5 years. So 5-6 years. So this was the reality. So he, being a very smart leader, he realized this, and how he started his journey of prime minister candidate and campaign. Suddenly he wanted to change this perception of rich, urban, and upper caste. What he said, I'm chaiwala. My mother used to go to different households, for cleaning purpose. Suddenly he started positioning himself on that poor kind of a line, right? Then he said, I am OBC, which is backward class, other backward class. So these things will happen. Then he simply said, you gave 60 years to Congress, you give me 60 months, which is 5 years. And he projected the Gujarat development model. I will try and, do the country like that. This is the
Replicate that
case.
for the country, yeah.
So he came victorious, and he came not only victorious, but BJP could secure 282 seats and form the government on their own, first time ever, and that too so many years.
Right.
But what happened is that this is all saying. Now he has to do with some kind of a doing. Saying is one thing and doing is another thing, right? And then Maharashtra election happened. BJP could, do well, and through Shiv Sena alliance. Then Haryana, very, slender margin, they formed the government. And then the 2015, after 8 months or so, Obama visited India on Republic Day, and he attended that Republic Day, parade function, and Modi ji was wearing one suit,
Right.
which had a hologram throughout of his name.
His
Narendra
name was
Modi.
kind of stitched in
and
stripes.
which was gifted by one of the businessmen in Surat, right? And then election happened in February, first week, and Modi ji and BJP lost very, very badly.
This was in Delhi.
This is an assembly election of Delhi 2015. Out of 70 seats, BJP could secure 3 seats. Can you imagine 3 seats? And Arvind Kejriwal won 67 seats, Aam Aadmi Party.
Right.
What it means? Just before 8 months, all these daily parliamentary, all 7 constituency, you swept like anything. The margin were in the excess of 2 lakhs plus votes in all 7 seats. And now you could secure only 3 seats of the 70. What's going on? And after 6-7 months, there was a Bihar election, and that also they lost very badly, BJP, in 2015. Then there was something going on. Then they must have thought, I don't know, I never met anybody in BJP on that front, the think tank side. But, and then we saw in November, the Notbandi demonetization was declared. And after 3 months, there was a biggest state election was due, which is Uttar Pradesh, in February. And November 8th, this Notbandi was declared, and we were doing surveys. And when we go to people and ask, what do you think about Notbandi? Is it good or bad? 57% people said it is very good. 30% say it is not good, and 10% had no opinion. They said doesn't matter. But what is more important here, the kind of delight I could see on their face, and as you mentioned, it's the money coming to their account. And when I just forget to mention, in campaign of 2014, Modi ji also said every Indian will get 15 lakhs rupees on their account through, we will get all black money back.
Black money that had been stashed in Swiss bank accounts or whatever.
Everywhere. So, and this demo was declared in that line only. Only difference was 2 types of black money. One is, lying in out of the country, and one is within the country. So this, what is Notbandi is to ban the 500 rupees and 1000 rupees note means what? That what you call is parallel economy. That Indian system, 70% of business functions through cash, and through what you call it parallel economy. It was lying in people's, we call it sanduk, sanduk, cupboard.
Yeah.
So people become very uncomfortable. Those who has got this kind of loads of money, what choices they had before them? First, to distribute to the whoever they are in the ecosystem. They say, "Bhai, aap aaj rakh lo, you return to me when I last."
Right. So you take the money just so I can get it through the bank, and then you give it back to me later.
So I don't have to pay the income tax. Whatever money I deposit in the bank, I have to pay 1/3 of as income tax, right?
Right.
And secondly, whoever there was salary was due, they said you take advance salary for 1 year and 2 years.
Right.
So suddenly people started thinking, oh, first Modi ji opened the bank account and now money started flowing. Ye to chamatkar ho gaya. You are getting my point? Chamatkar. Suddenly Modi ji become Masiha poor. Masiha poor.
Right.
And most importantly, now I'm connecting that. What was the image? Party of traders. And these traders only had this loads of cash.
Black money and cash.
And he took them on the task. So the moment that emotional connect happened, oh, this is the man who can take the rich on task. So then Modi become poor man, the complete, shift of the perception of BJP and particularly Modi. This is the man.
Well, I think you can't underestimate, Pradeep ji, the amount of delight that people can get in any country in the world when they feel like people above them are getting squeezed a little bit, right?
That's what.
When they believe the fat cats and the cronies and the black money hoarders, whether it's true or not true is another story. But if they believe that I'm sacrificing, but the people above me are the ones who are really hurting, that gives them some kind of satisfaction, right?
No, all kind of satisfaction. If I don't know if you have stayed in India or no, these 70% rural, what I'm referring to, there is always one person called Jamidar,
Right.
Sarkar, as you were
Right.
referring, and whole ecosystem belongs to them. And I'm not able to show you. And these people, stand like this, putting head down, and they cannot do like this. The Notebandi make them will do this.
Right. I mean, there was a quote in the newspaper which said, interviewed a farmer in Uttar Pradesh who said, demonetization, Notebandi may have made me blind in one eye, but for the rich, it's made them blind in both eyes, right? Which is sort of what you're saying. I want to ask you about politics going forward, right? You argue in the book, and we've talked a lot about Modi, that as you look at it, there is not a single political leader who, at the present moment, can go head to head with Modi on a national scale. And that, of course, is a huge source of strength for him. But you spend a lot of time in the field talking to voters, surveying voters. Are there leaders, either at the state level or other leaders who may be minor players today, who might be able to give Modi a run for his money in 2024?
See, we'll have to understand it's the same scenario when Indira Gandhi ji was there. Opposition was divided and she was enjoying this, what you call Tina effect. There is no alternate, right? Similarly, when you say you have to have leader who can challenge, what is more important here is, though there are n number of leaders, but what is important is they are leader of a particular political party, and at time that is the regional party.
Right.
So unless all the opposition party or bulk of them get united, and most importantly, they make the consensus for one leader which is acceptable to all the political party, which is regional party, most of them, then only you can think to challenge Modi, right? Unless you do this, I think this question will remain unanswered.
All right, last question for you.
Yeah.
Can Rahul Gandhi be that person? Yes or no?
At this point of time, no, because he doesn't have the acceptability across regional chhatra, which is very big in that sense. Be it Mamata Banerjee, be it Naveen Patnaik, be it Nitish Kumar, they are very tall leaders. So unless you have the acceptability across the board, how can you be the leader? First of all, you cannot make the consensus among these 20 parties. How can you expect people to accept you as your prime minister candidate, a leader? This is the problem.
My guest on the show this week is Pradeep Gupta. He's the chairman and managing director of Access My India, one of India's leading polling firms, and he is the author of the brand new book published by Juggernaut, How India Votes and What It Means. Pradeep, you have a big task ahead of you, 5 state elections. The results will come out on May 2nd. We eagerly look forward to your exit polls. Thank you so much for taking the time, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Milan.
Grant Tamasha is a co-production of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Hindustan Times. This podcast is an HT Smartcast original and is available on htsmartcast.com, India's fastest-growing podcasting producing platform. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review. It helps others find the show more easily. For more information about the show and to find the writing we referenced on this week's episode, visit our website, granttamasha.com. Production assistance comes from Jonathan Kay, Tim Martin is our audio engineer, and Cliff Jayapranada is our executive producer. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.
This was a Hindustan Times production brought to you by HT Smartcast.
HT Smartcast.